Hi, boys and girls. Today is day 4 of your creative narrative lesson writing. This is a mini lesson going to be all about the plot development. When we talk about plot development, we are talking about that beginning, middle, and end, but not just that. We're really diving into the work that we did yesterday with the outline, and we're adding more details. We want to make sure when we're working on this as a 4th grader going into 5th grade, we want to be clear with our exposition, our rising actions, our climax, our falling actions, and our resolution. If you don't have a clear plot diagram or plot development, your story is not going to be great. You need to make sure that you have those details in there, that it flows, and then the rough draft, honestly, from here, rough draft, editing and revising and all of that is pretty easy peasy. The day 1 through day 4 of creating a story is really the hardest thing for an author, for a good writer to do. So I've showed you many ways to get your ideas using those videos from the space station. I'm going to keep repeating myself with that. Use those images, those videos, the information to gather. That's what good authors do when they're writing stories. They go live in the places that they write stories about. They read books about things that they want to write about. They learn from other authors. They learn from real people. If they're writing a realistic fiction story, they go and learn how those people live their lives. A lot of authors write about their own lives and experiences. So trying to create a story out of thin air is really difficult. And some people have a hidden talent for it, or even a talent that they use and know about. But really, a good writer does their research. Whether it's creative writing or informational writing, it doesn't matter. You wanna pull from real experiences, because that's what's gonna give your story a hook or something that people actually want to read. So the parts here that we're going to look at today are things like the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling actions, and the resolution. Hopefully by this time you know what all those words mean, but I'm going to explain each of them carefully so that you all are familiar. So when you do this on your own, it's super easy. So we're going to think about our story outline that we did yesterday, and that story outline looked similar to this one. It was the main conflict is Amber's favorite lunch on the International Space Station. It isn't what she expected. So remember, that was our conflict. Again, it doesn't have to be some crazy conflict or argument. A conflict can just be something simple as a surprise, or something that's a little amiss in the story. Or it can be something that's even exciting, or something that changes. It all is about changing the character's perspective. So Amber starts off in the story looking forward to her lunch. She'd just been working really hard on repairing a computer all day. She floats to the food canisters to get her lunch. She opens her macaroni and cheese, and it's actually spaghetti. She becomes very suspicious and goes to find David. David admits he switched the labels on the food pouches. Remember, I got a lot of these ideas from the video tour that I watched, and some of the images, honestly, and I'm going to show you in a second some of the other images that I found that you have access to, all of them with the links in the slide 1. Excuse me. And I don't think I told you this in yesterday's lesson, but the spaghetti's my favorite food, and macaroni and cheese is my son's favorite food. So that's why I use those two. But I also know that they use those in space in their astronaut food. So that's where I came up with those ideas. So pull from your real life if you need to. No worries there. So what we're looking at here is taking this and putting it into this, but with more detail. So we don't want to just, a lot of times what people do is they'll make the mistake of, okay, well, I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it into this first part. We don't want to do that. This is more of just a outline at the beginning. So when we go into the plot development, we want to get a lot more detailed. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I know that Amber has been repairing computers all day, and we want to make sure that exposition, which is the beginning of your story, we want to make sure the reader has a clear idea of like what time of day it is, and kind of what's happening around. So one thing, I'm going to go back to the slide for a second. I put some images on, and this is where the video I'm making right now will be, but I put some images on the side here. These are some images that I pulled from the NASA website that I shared with you guys on slide 1 under images on the International Space Station. And these are honestly where I came up with a lot of my ideas. She's clearly working really hard on this. Even her face, she's very serious, working hard on these computer parts. So that's where I got that idea. And she has like a dehydrated item here. It looks like lemonade to me. So I'm going to use that as an idea. Here's that guy, David, that I think is funny. He's holding a note in a dehydrated pack of food. This guy's clearly not the same guy, but I thought this was a good one too, because she's like holding her arms up like, hey, did you do this? So that's another way to get your ideas flowing. So for my expedition, don't forget, just double click. If the text box goes away, it's probably there. You just have to click around where you thought it was. And if it disappears, you can insert a new text box or you can undo until it comes back. So what I'm going to type here is the story. Okay, begins. We want to talk about when it begins at 2 p.m. Now, I think on the International Space Station, time is a little different for them, but that's okay. And I'm going to signal that that's my time, just to make sure I have it. Okay, so it begins with Amber. And I already told you this, but we're going to add it. Finishing a computer repair. Okay. Oop, spelling things wrong there. Do a good old right click and fix it, or you could fix it yourself, but I like to do the easier way. Computer repair, so remember that's the situation. So that's what she's doing. So we want to know the time, what your character is doing, and where they're at. So she's on the ISS, or the International Space Station. So that's where I'm going to put that's my beginning. So that's all you need to do for that, guys. So if you need to move these boxes around, by the way, feel free to do that. You can move them around by just simply moving them like this, but I would start typing them, and as you type, you might need to move them around. If you don't have as many events as what I have, then you can get rid of some of them, but here's what I'm going to say to that. You should not be getting rid of more than 2 or 3. If you're doing that, if you're getting rid of more 2 or 3 event boxes, then you don't have enough details on your plot development. And that means you need to go back and look at those images and those videos on the International Space Station on NASA website, and you need to get some more ideas. So I'm still at the beginning of my story. So what does she realize in the beginning? We know that Amber realizes, okay, does she realize yet that she is not have her favorite fruit? No. We're just, so far the story begins at 2 p.m. She's finishing her computer repair on the ISS. That's all we're at. So we need to realize, think about it as a person. They just finished their workup. How are they feeling now? Well, she just realizes that she is very hungry. Yes, that's an important detail because that leads to what happens next. Move this box down as close as I can. I'm going to go ahead and start typing my next detail. So she realizes she's hungry. So logically, what does she do? She floats to the food storage. That was something from the videos that I watched. They have a food storage area where they have containers. Some of them are in just like these plastic bags on the wall. And some of them are in containers. So that was in the video that I watched. She floats to the food storage containers to get her lunch. So that was my next detail. Then what happens when she floats to the food storage container? Something I did not have on my other graph that I thought was good detail to add, and this is what you should be doing as you're going through this, especially on the rising action side. You probably don't have a whole lot there, so pay attention to where could you add this in. So she floats to food storage, she gets her lunch. What would you logically do if you're getting food? You would also want to get a drink, kind of that whole if you give a mouse a cookie kind of situation. So I decided from that one picture I saw that she rehydrates. They don't just drink water up there. She rehydrates her lemonade. So she's got a lemonade packet using the water dispenser. And in that video, there was a thing about the water, and I thought that was funny in the food room. And you could even maybe add a little detail later on in your story. I might add a little detail saying like how she spilled the water went crazy or something like that. All right, so I'm going to keep going here. Pull this down because I have more details. Okay, and back that up. Don't back it up too far. So now she's grabbed her food. She's rehydrated her lemonade. What's the most logical thing to come next? She goes to open her mac. I'm just gonna write mac and cheese because that's what I call it at home. She goes to open her mac and cheese pouch and is shocked to find that it's spaghetti. Okay. And spaghetti and I don't like these at all. This is how I put my twist on it to be something I don't like. Spaghetti and meatballs. I don't like meatballs. And this is the conflict. So don't get mixed up with the conflict and the please don't mix up the conflict and the climax. They're not the same thing. The climax is the most exciting part where things change. The conflict is like what's the oh no in the story. All right. So we're going to keep on going. So make sure you have that conflict on there. Again, all the kids get that mixed up all the time. So try your best not to get that mixed up. So next, she's shocked. She's like, oh my gosh, this is spaghetti and meatballs. I want a mac and cheese. So what happens? She's like, what in the world? So she gets suspicious. And then, like I said, I came up with that idea just because that guy looked a little suspicious. I thought he was kind of funny. I'm going to move that box down. So you're going to have to finagle with this on your own here. Move this box down. So she gets suspicious. And who does she go after? What did we say on our outline? Who does she go after? She goes after that character named David. So this is where I'm going to add David in there. She float. What does she do? Is he in the kitchen or the food room with her? No. So I'm going to say she floats floats down the hall. Oh my goodness. To find David. Okay. So I'm going to pull that out a little bit. So finagle with it. Do what you need. No worries. I'm actually going to add a new one. So I'm just going to click on it and hit Control D and it makes a new one. And bring that over there. Okay. So easy peasy. If you need to add more, you just click on it and hit Control D and it makes another one. Then, so what would logically happen once she's floating down to find David? She actually needs to find David. So she finds him. She finds David. Don't put him either. Make sure you're using names because when you go to write your story, you want to make sure you're like, oh, who was I talking about there? So she finds David in the control room. And we want to say what he's doing. So we didn't do that on the other slide. So keep that in mind. I don't even think we just said she becomes suspicious and goes to find David. David admits. So we go straight from on here, like her being suspicious, her finding him, and then him admitting that he did it. So that's why this is so important because in a real story, you can't jump from one thing to another. You gotta have an even flow. So she gets suspicious while she's still in the food room, right? And then she's floating down the hall to find him, and we can visualize this character floating down in those little tiny halls. And she finds him in the control room, and you have to be able to visualize your reader needs to be able to visualize what is he doing when she finds him. So he's writing in a logbook. If you look at some of the pictures, they're constantly logging everything that they're doing. So that's something interesting to write there. I'm going to move this one down, I think, and move this one down maybe. You got to really, oh goodness gracious. So see how I have to do that? You got to do that too, guys. Be problem solvers. Okay, so then I'm going to move this over because I want the climax to be like right underneath the words climax. All right, so the climax is the most exciting part. So think about it in like a movie terms. You know, you got your character and she's going to go confront the person that is obviously the culprit. And so Amber, that's a pretty exciting part of the movie when somebody finally confronts the person. So she confronts David and David does what? He admits he switched the labels. So this is where when I go to write my story, like actually draft this is where I'm super excited and looking forward to really giving more details to this part, because all I'm saying here is that she confronted David, which we know confronting doesn't mean just standing in front of. Confronting means to talk to them and tell them what you think is wrong. But your reader doesn't know how she confronts them. So when you go to draft, that's when you'll do that part. So we want to be detailed here, but we don't want to be like crazy detailed where it doesn't, we can't fit everything on there. So don't get too lost in it. So after she confronts him, he switched the labels, he admits to it. Now we're getting to the resolution. So what happens next? We don't just go to he switched labels on the pouches and he admits to it, and then it's the end of the story. We don't want to go just straight to he switched labels on the pouches and he says sorry. Okay, you're not in second grade. That's not even a second grade story. That's more like a first grade story. We want to be fourth graders going into fifth grade, and we want to really reach for development in our story. So once she finds out that he switched those things, we need some type of action to go into the resolution. So what do you think she would do? She would say, hey, so Amber, she tells David, well, guess what? Since you decided to switch them, she tells David to come and help her get the correct lunch. Okay, so she's like, fine, if you're gonna be silly, you're gonna come help me find the correct lunch, because honestly, for astronauts, they work really hard and their meals are a big deal to them. So then what does he do? David switches because he remembers the pouch labels back, because, and maybe in my story I might talk about how he did it to a bunch of them and she's like, oh my gosh, you did so many. Who knows? So I'm just thinking out loud here. And then our resolution, finally, again, we don't want to just say he's sorry, he switched the labels back. We want to tie up every loose end in this story when we are done. It's a short, small story, so it really shouldn't be that difficult. So what was she starting out by doing? She was starting out working really hard, and she realized she was hungry. So we have not tied up that loose end yet, that she was hungry, and we want to fulfill that. So in the complete resolution, we want to match almost, if you look straight across, whatever you started with as the initial character motivation that somebody wanted, you want a resolution for that. So she was hungry, so guess what Amber gets? Amber gets to enjoy her mac and cheese while, while David, guess what he gets to do? David has to eat the spaghetti. Oh my gosh, I can't type. Sorry, guys. Spaghetti that she opened. Because on the, and in my rough draft, I'll probably go into more detail with this, but she makes him eat the spaghetti because on Space Station, in one of the videos that I watched, and it's just logic, they can't waste any of their food. They're up in space. It's not like they can go to the grocery store and buy more food. So it's super important the fact that she had already opened that spaghetti. Again, a loose end that we had to tie up. We didn't want to say she opened the spaghettis and then, well, she got to enjoy her mac and cheese. As a reader, I'm going, what's going on with the spaghetti? Like, did she just leave it sitting there? Is that allowed on the International Space Station? So you want to tie that up as well. So everything at this point that we brought up in the exposition or the rising action and even the climax, we have resolved, and there's no questions left open for our short story. So this brings us to the end of day 4. This is what you need to work on today. Please come back to this video as many times as you need to get more ideas. Please don't just use my ideas. Use your own ideas. You guys are awesome and you're creative and you can do this. If you use those videos from the NASA space station and those images, I am more than sure you're going to come up with some really cool stories. But don't forget to have a logical order. Think about what would happen next if this person did this, and then if this person did this, and this person did this. And if you have a clear outline from yesterday, this will be no problem at all. So get those plots developed and have a great time. And don't forget to use that NASA Space Station, International Space Station source as like your best friend for this, because it's going to give you great ideas. Have fun. If you have any questions, let me know or let your teacher know. Bye, guys.